What's up? This is BT Windsor out of Bridgeville, Delaware, and I'm here checking out the Three Count Podcast with my boy Red Dog.
Do you wanna get live with me? Do you really wanna ride with me? I'm in the club, baby, grind on me.
Welcome everyone to another great edition of the Three Count Podcast presents Now Wins Ring, and now I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you out that mountain to go wrestling. And by now, with this being our 400th and something episode, I would just hope you say with me, I am your Sherpa, because like your tribal chief, acknowledge me. But like every good Sherpa, you gotta have someone who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficient than you can. That's why it's never about me. It's about who's entering. So who's entering the ring? He is big. He is powerful. He is shiny, and he looks like a semi-truck. He is BT Windsor.
What's up, man? Thank you for having me. Thank you. I was really excited when you sent me the message of getting me on the podcast. I'm like, yeah,
Hell
of
yeah.
course.
I mean, I think the thing is like we first met in Delaware, and I think you had just started getting into the business.
Dude, when
And
we
like,
first met, I was refereeing
yeah,
because you
that's
were in
right.
a 5-on-5, not a bull rope match, but they had like the rope hanging over the
Gang
turnbuckle, and you
warfare.
had to like tag it I refereed. That's the first wrestling show I ever worked on. I was refereeing. That's the first match I ever did, the 5-on-5. It was you, Pure Ignorance, Deep Pockets versus the Yee Yee Squad, Carlson and all the boys.
You know what's so crazy is that I came up with the name Deep Pockets because they originally wanted to call him Pockets, and I was like, yeah, Deep Pockets. And then he was like, oh, I like that. And then like he like started talking about it, right? And then we ran into each other at the Wrestling Independent, like a year later we ran into each other, and he was talking about it. He's like, yeah, Deep Pockets, that's my name. I was like, I know, I came up with it. And he was just like,
He
you
didn't even know that
did.
you came up with it.
It was me. I was the reason why.
That sounds like
Because,
him, though.
but you know what's funny is it all came off of a joke. So my boys and I, back when I was a kid in high school, we had this dude named Ern, right? It was their uncle. So my boy Joseph and my boy Felipe, their uncle, his name was Ern, and he used to refer to them as loose change and pocket change. Or no, it was loose. Was it loose and pocket? No, it was chump and pocket, and I was loose change. So when he was, he's like, yeah, you got pocket change, you got chump change, and then you got loose change right here, and that was me. And so when he was talking about it, like, yeah, pocket, yeah, deep pockets, and then like that's where the whole joke spawned from. So it started off as just like a playful joke that actually turned into his real
And
name.
it stuck. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
still Deep Pockets to this day.
Yeah, because he was like flashing the cash and stuff, and I was like, "Yeah, dude, I'm the one that gave you the nickname." And he was like, "Oh my god, that's right, I forgot."
That sounds like him, not knowing who gave him the name he got.
Well, here's the thing too: is that you were trained from Mark Harrow,
Yeah.
and like at the ranch, Carlson's ranch, we'll call it,
Yep.
right? The
Yep.
ranch hand's house. No, I think it's so cool because like he's such a plethora of knowledge to like learn from and like get stuff. And he has this way of like blending like today's kind of art style of wrestling with the previous generation's art style. And so like I don't know. I always get hyped when I get to talk with him because I learn something new every single time I see him and talk to him.
Yeah, he first off, he's gonna be unlike anybody you've ever met in your entire life. He is one of a kind.
Yes.
And man, I would not be the wrestler I am today without him. That dude has taught me so much in and out the ring. He he's like a mad genius, like he see things, and he can explain things in a way that I know I never could. And the guy he can do any move in the ring. He can do any move, and like it's nothing. And not only that, but he can show you how to do it. He can break it down to like a science,
Yeah.
so that it's not just, oh, here, pick somebody up and slam them. It's, step one, step two, step three. He's kind of like what's the guy from the Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi?
Mr. Miyagi.
The wax on, wax off. When I first went to workhorse training, and Mark Harrow was teaching us how to do these weird things where you like lean on each other and like roll around each other. And I'm like, man, what the heck is this? What are we going to do wrestling? And then it all like came full circle where it's like, oh, well, we did that so you could learn how to pick this guy up and slam him, and how you could learn to get picked up and get slammed. And it was like, this is like Karate Kid in real life.
The thing is so funny too, because like the bands are like a real thing. Like I think a lot of people don't understand, like Workhorse has like the band system, so like everybody walks around with the wristbands. And if you are part of that school and you understand like the color system that works with it, it very much is a Karate Kid.
It is like Karate Kid. Yeah, yeah. The band system, you rise up in the ranks, and basically the idea behind it is you can tell someone your experience by just flicking your wrist and saying, here's my color band. This, you already know how experienced I am, what I'm capable of doing just by looking at my wrist. So it's definitely unique, and I appreciated going through the system.
Yeah, and it's one thing too where I like to pick his brain here and there and just kind of learn. And he like like we said, like he could break things down to you and then teach you like how to do anything in the ring, and it's a blast. But enough about Mark. Mark, you got over enough on the show, okay, man? Like,
we talked about you.
We done talked about you, okay, numerous times. Ranch Hand and I have talked about Eric. A lot of the students that come around have talked about you. We done enough of that. We done. So about you though, man, because you've been a part of MATW, you've been a part of 1CW, you've been a part of Wrestling Independent. You were on Fight. That's actually, I think that was the first time that we ran across each other, was that Fight, and then the Wrestling Independent, if I remember right. It was cool because like watching the evolution of you, man, has been like it's been a thing of beauty to watch. Because when we first worked, you really hadn't been in that long. You really hadn't had that many matches under your belt, but you have been like coming along, and to see you like a full year later, just like the I don't want to say like the swagger that you had was like lit. I was so happy to see it.
Yeah. I'm a lot different now than I was a year ago in the wrestling business. I'll say that. I went through basically a whole gimmick change earlier in this year. I used to do the trucker, the air horn, and I was the brother trucker and all this, and I had a blast doing it. And then I went to a seminar and I sat down. It was a Kevin Kelly seminar, and we all had to do a promo in front of everybody, and I did the air horn. And then I asked him, I was like, man, is it silly? He's like, what? I'm like, the air horn, like walking around and burr, burr, and making a noise. Like, is it too silly? Because like I'll do it, especially at 1CW where it was super over. I'll do it all the time, and people go crazy for it. And I'm like, I feel kind of silly doing it, if I'm being honest, but it's over, so I continue to do it. And Kevin gave me the greatest advice I think I've ever gotten in the wrestling business by saying, he once knew a wrestler that was a train conductor gimmick, and he walked around and he chewed, and all the kids loved him, and he sold merchandise, and he got booked a lot. But that guy was never a top guy, was never going to be on TV. So you got to stop and think, what do you want to do with your career in wrestling business? And I was like, maybe it's time to take the next step, start a new chapter. And I got my hair dyed blonde. I'm due for a touch up to re-dye it. I do it about every 3 or 4 weeks or so. I'm due, but and I went with shortening it down to BT Windsor instead of going my brother trucker. Try to be a little. I got that from CW Anderson over at MATW. He gave me that suggestion. Said it sounded a little bit more professional than brother trucker, since brother trucker is sort of a twist on a NSFW term. So he said, BT sounds a little more professional, and it's a cliche. They say, your gimmick should just be you crank to 11, and right now I'm just kind of being me out there in the ring, and still just figuring out who I am. I'm only 2 years in, but we wrestled each other about a year ago, and I would say today I'm a lot different now in the wrestling business than I was a year ago when we wrestled, for sure.
Well, and I think it goes to just like you constantly want to evolve yourself and push yourself into like different directions. I'm gonna be real, bro. Like, Kevin, with all due respect, I don't know, man. I don't know, because like Right now, the top guy in WWE literally just puts his hands in the air, yeet, and then everybody does
Right.
it. So I mean, like, there's this thing, the 9-10 rule. I think like everybody talks about it. Like
Mhm.
9 times out of 10, it's not meant to work, or 9 times out of 10, it's meant to work, and then it's usually that 1 out of 10 it doesn't, or that 1 out of 10 it does. So like it's again, it goes to different flavor of ice creams, you know what I mean, and different things. But like literally, you're watching Jey Uso like stand in the crowd and yeet, and he was the Intercontinental Champion at one time, right? Like
Right.
I don't know, man. Those guys who has those catchphrases and are silly. I mean, R-Truth, right, is a prime
R-Truth.
example. He was a former NWA heavyweight champion, and this guy's in the WWE, and he's still a top guy. Like,
Still a
I'm not
top
saying
guy.
that comedy is meant for everybody, but like, there is something about everybody who dabs in the comedy side. Because and the best part about it too for you, right, is that you have this playful side, which is the brother trucker, and then you have this serious side of BT Windsor. Like, so you can switch in and out depending on what the promotion's supposed to be like, which is a beautiful thing to have.
Yeah, and I'm really still figuring out, who I am in the ring, personality wise. Sometimes I'm out there and I feel, this way, and sometimes I'm out there and I feel another way. And uh, I'm still every time I go out in the ring and I'm trying to do something new and figure out who I am. I've only been in for 2 years now. A little
Yeah.
over 2 years is when I took, my first training session. So I had to remind myself that, I'm trying to play keep up with people, friends, peers, colleagues in the business that have been doing it a lot longer than me. I'm trying to play keep up, and I have to remind myself that I'm only 2 years into this, and still really figuring out who I am.
Yeah, it's like it's something that my trainer said to me, Sicken, was like sometimes you just gotta run with blinders on. Like you just can't worry about like what's going on the left of you and what's going on the right of you. Like you just gotta keep running forward. I remember I did a practice match one time uh with a friend of the show, Will Knox. And that's when we were training together. And like there was a match, we had an agent in by somebody else. It was just a practice match at that. And we had an
Mhm.
agent by somebody else, and just I'm glad it was a practice match because shit fell apart so quick. And I got
It's all done.
frustrated. I was so pissed at the end of the match. I got out the ring. Like I got done with the match. I got out the ring. I lost my composure. I got mad. And Nick like had to sit me down and was like, bro, like, why are we mad? Like we had a bad match. It's fine. And it was like, I remember being so upset about this match though, because like I was like, I expected more out of myself, forgetting that I'd only been in the business for like less than 8 months. And so like,
Right.
and again, you try to keep up with everybody, but he's like, no, bro, you got to run with blinders on, because if you focus on what this person or that person or these people are doing, you're just going to get pissed off. And the one thing about, you know, like comparison is it robs you of your joy that you have. So like I have to remember, like I'm about to hit my 5th year in January, right?
Mhm.
When you guys watch this, I think I may have already hit my 5th year. It just depends on when this show comes out. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you have to relax and then just like enjoy the journey that you're on, because everybody's so focused about I got to keep up with all these other guys. And like you said, like, you know, Jason Andrews, who just came back to 1CW, has been doing this for 5 years. You know what I mean? But then again, you look at someone like Mark. Mark's been doing this for like over 15 years. And so like, who are you really trying to keep up with? You know what I mean? Like, just
Mhm.
enjoy the journey.
And right now, my journey is taking me to you mentioned earlier MATW, and it's been a great thing for me. I think really, really learning a lot about the wrestling business, learning about myself, trying to get out there more. Um, 1CW, that's always my home, and I've learned a lot there. And I almost got to the point where I was like, I'm so over here that when I go other places, I think I'm over, right?
Yeah.
Because I really got super over at 1CW, and then when I would go to EWA or TWI or any other place, Fight Club, and I walk out and how come no one's cheering for me? Oh, because they don't know me, because this isn't my home place. So in a way, it almost made me lazy. Like I forgot
Yeah.
how to get over because my main place I got over, and you walk out, snap your fingers, and they throw babies in the air for you.
Yeah.
So it's been good just trying to get out more, trying to get out to more places. I've got hopefully some more new stuff lined up for 2025. Just trying to really get out there more, really travel more, see more places. But yeah, man, it's been a wild ride. This wrestling has been a wild ride, and it's hopefully going to continue.
Yeah, we're gonna hit on a couple points that you brought up there. The first one that we're gonna hit up on is that I understand like what you mean. Like I treat some places like my home promotions, and I forget that like I have to treat every crowd as it's the first time they're seeing me, which was something that
Yep.
I got instilled into me like really quick. Uh, from Second was like one of those things was like, hey man, no matter what happens, this is the first time the crowd's gonna see you. I don't care if you've been here one time or if you've been here 40 times. Like it's the first time every time. So like whether I'm at like 1CW or if I'm at like when I was at EWA or when I was at SWA or just up here like at Focus Pro or Supernova or even Wrestling Open, like I treat it like it's the first time I'm there because I genuinely don't know what the crowd's gonna expect from me, but I know what I'm gonna give to them, and that's how that's kind of how you have to treat it. Is like you come through that curtain, they don't know who you are. And so it's funny because like Chaz will bring it up a lot. He's like, I hate the fact that you can go almost anywhere and get over with the crowd ASAP. And I was like, dude, I just literally come out the curtain. I'm just like, I'm giving the energy, whatever the energy is that the crowd's going to give me, I'm going to give it right back. And so like I get hyped with all of them and they get hyped with me. Or if I come out at like EWA and the crowd boos me, I just boo them right back. And one time like there was we were in the castle and some lady, I came out and she told me I sucked. And I looked at her and I was like, your husband is literally sitting next to you, cheating on you on the phone right now. And she looked down, she looked at me, the dude's phone wasn't even on. I was like, made you look. And then she just hated me after that. And I would just walked away. Yeah, it's little things, man. But yeah, the energy you give out, like that every time that you do it, it comes back. And point two that I want to talk about said you have a lot of big things planned up for 2025. And yeah, so we were talking about this before we went on the air. You were just so for those who are going to timestamp this and try to figure out when we recorded this. This last week, the Colts and the Patriots played, and you were in Foxborough, and we just missed each other. And I was like, "Yeah, I was at a wrestling show on Saturday night." You're like, "Oh, I came up Saturday," and I was like, "Oh, damn!" So you should have hit me up.
Yeah, I should have been there. I was thinking. I thought Red Dog was in Maine, not Massachusetts. That was a bit of a blunder on my part. I didn't even think about it.
No, and
both
now
MA, right? Both Northeast New England. I mean, it's easy to mix them up.
ME is Maine. MA is Massachusetts.
ME is Maine. MA is Massachusetts.
Yeah. But no. So like it's one of those things where like we just have Focus Pro just had their show. More Money, More Problems too. And a lot of great talent is there too. And yeah, so I can't wait to see like where you go next. So whether that is up in the Massachusetts area and come kick it with me, or you're out in like New York, New Jersey, Connecticut for all that matters, Pennsylvania, and like I know you travel around because I've seen you, MATW is like out of Virginia.
Out of Virginia, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, for you to be able to make the roads and travel up and down, northeast to the DMV is like massive moves, man.
Yeah. I'm working on my South Carolina license. It's actually pretty difficult. You got to get a physical. You got to get a doctor to sign it, and the doctor has to send it in to the commission.
Damn, that's crazy.
But North Carolina, you don't need anything. Yeah, so North and South Carolina, I'm working on some things to try to get working there next year. That's a big goal for me. WrestleCade weekend just passed. That's down in North Carolina, Winston-Salem. That's a big goal for me. Yeah, I'm going to try and go northeast. For me, I like old school wrestling, Southern style, NWA, Jim Crockett territory stuff. That's what the kind of wrestling I like to do in the ring. That's the kind of thing I enjoy, and I feel comes natural to me because I like it, I enjoy it, and you can't just do the things you like. You got to get good at everything. You got to get good at all the styles. Really, 2025, I it's hard for me to admit, but I need to push myself and get out of my comfort zone and wrestle, high spot matches, high speed, whatever the modern indie style that is out of my comfort zone for me personally. But I want to learn all the styles. I want to learn everything. God, it's taken a lot to like humble myself and admit that because I used to be like, no, there's only one way to do it. It's headlock takeovers and arm drags but like you got to get good at it all. You got to be able to do
Yeah.
anything. That way, when your time comes, that opportunity comes, and we need you to do this. Well, I only do this. All right, next guy.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. So really, I'm trying to push myself into spots that are uncomfortable for me, and I think that's a hard thing for people in general to do. We like to do the things we're good at, and that's what's next for me, man. That's what's next for 2025. Trying to push my own boundaries and get out of my comfort zone and really
Yeah,
grow as a wrestler.
it's important to grow, but it's also too important to know like what you do well and how you get over with the crowd. I think that's like the most important thing, right? It's like if you can go out there and you can do a 450 splash, cool, right? If you go out there and you can hit ranas on every single person, cool. But if you can go out there and you can just get the crowd to get behind you, ultimately it doesn't like you hear it all the
Moves
time.
don't
The
matter.
moves
Moves
don't
don't
matter.
matter.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
crowd gets into you. And it's one of those things where like I know like I've worked different promotions where people have, they're like, well, this is a wrestling crowd. I'm like, okay, well, all crowds like to just be felt like they're being attended to and talked to,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I've done those things where it's like, whether you like, yeah, I can go 100 miles an hour. Cool. But can you go 10? Because we're not really doing a whole lot. I just watched the match. This I watched this match this last week. It was only like 5 minutes long, right? If that, right? It was Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, right? The Outsiders back in WCW, and I think it was like 99, 2000. Bro, they wrestled like two hookers, and they lost. They lost. They put him
What?
over. And bruh, it is so funny because these two females that are in the ring, you can tell clearly have never worked in a match. But Scott Hall and Kevin Nash got these girls over. And like obviously they're over. It's Big Sexy and the bad guy, let's be real. But it was the fact that these two girls who never been in a ring threw some punches, right? They were over with the crowd. The crowd clearly, I mean, it's different, right? I mean, this is 90s and like sure, we can say like dudes in the 90s were all about like booze, boobs, and babes, right? But
Right.
like they were over, bro. Like they got the pin. Like one girl was like, "Yo, I'll flash you. Like I'll flash you if you lay down and take the pin." So Kevin Nash, I think, took the pin. It's a weird thing. And I'm like,
Right. But it was nothing about moves.
there was no moves. At one
Yeah.
point in time, I think like one of the girls backed Scott Hall like into a corner and then like did the 10 count punch, right? But
Right.
like that was like the most that happened, and then Scott
Right.
Hall sold it like he just got knocked out. But the crowd was into it, and like I think that's ultimately where like the heart of indie wrestling is in. Is like, can you get the crowd to enjoy what you're doing, and do you need to do a million moves? Like, I don't really think you do. I think
It's
I
crazy
think it
because
got that way for
the
a
most
while.
over thing, the thing that I've done in matches that's gotten the most over is not a move. It's the air horn.
Yeah.
That is the most over thing I've ever done at any building or at any show that's gotten the crowd to react is the air horn. And it's not a move. It's just a thing that they can do along with me
Yeah.
when I'm making my comeback, you know. And it's
Well, we
in a
worked
way
at
I'm glad
TW.
that I did that because it did teach me like they don't care if you're doing drop kicks or body slams. Like they want to do the air horn with you, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, it was like
So
when we worked at the Wrestling Independent, like you were over. Like I came out and the crowd was hot, but when you came out, you were like, "Burp, burp." Like the crowd got into it too, and then
it's
like
just an
I
easy
became the
thing to
heel,
do.
even though
Yeah.
like we didn't have a bad guy. We had two faces facing off against each other, and like the crowd was way into like the horn, and it was just it's so funny. But like yeah, it takes those things that like people will genuinely get behind you and cheer for you, and that's important. Like you want that crowd participation as much as possible, because at the end of the day what ends up happening is like people focus on like, oh man, if I do this killer like 450 twist spin kick and then fall, and then I'll pick you up, hit you with like a lariat, and then pick you back up and hit you with a spine buster into a power bomb, and then the crowd will explode. No, I will just hit you with a chop, and the crowd's gonna go, ooh, and it's the same effect.
A lot less bumps,
Yeah, like
a lot less wear and tear.
I think about that all the time. Like, right, I didn't make it no secret when I talk about it on this podcast. Like, I'm almost 40. Like, I don't gotta take. I'll take 6 or 7 bumps in a match.
Just make them count, make them
Make
matter,
them
right?
count. Yeah,
Yeah, make them
like
matter.
yeah, I will hit rolls all day. You can arm drag me wherever, right? But if you go to slam me, bro, make it mean something because it has to. Like,
So
I
the last match I worked was for MATW in Gloucester, Virginia, at the Gloucester High School, and I wrestled this guy Man of War. He's like a Vader, right? He's got
yeah,
like an executioner mask. He's a foreigner. He's got a foreign manager. They do like the Death to America, but he's a real big guy, right? He's big. So it's a cliche, but every time I wrestle a guy that's big, I do the same match where you he never falls on his back. Everything I do staggers him. He never goes down, and then he takes one big bump at the end, right? Because we're trying to make him look big.
yeah,
And I do a drop kick, he hits the rope, catch him, body slam. After failing to do a body slam a couple times in the match, it's a body slam. It's really not a bad bump, and it's the only bump he takes in the whole match. And I'll say 9 times out of 10, it gets a good reaction because we're slamming the big guy. Oh my God, I didn't think he could pick him up because I tried 3 times and failed, even though I'm
yep.
not really picking him up. He's jumping for me. But, it's make the bump matter, especially if it's a big guy. I always do that same
Yeah.
style match, make the bumps matter.
David and Goliath is like one of my favorite stories just in general to like tell. Like, and I'm sorry for peeling back the curtain too far for some of y'all, but it's one of those things where it's like, I love, so one of the people I love working with is like Beastman, because like he understands, right? And so like I know that if I'm not winning in this match, the only thing I'm just hitting with you one bump, and that's it.
One
And
bump.
when we wrestled at the Wrestling Independent, right? Dad, the God Bod, Dad God Bod,
Yeah.
the God Dad Bod. Yeah, like we did the same thing. Like, I mean, the crowd was calling me John Cena, and like I was
Oh, I
trying to,
remember that. I remember it
yeah,
was a tag match, right?
it was a tag
They were,
match.
John Cena, John Cena.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
people were
popped
calling me
that.
John Cena, and so like anyway, I come in and like I hit one thing, and it's not working. I go to pick him up, it doesn't happen. I go to pick him up again the second time. Tim comes in, hits me in the back, right? Then I drop
Yeah.
down, and then they shoot me off the ropes. I come back, and then I pick him up and slam him. That's the only bump, and we ended the match
One
with it.
bump.
The crowd erupted, and that was it.
Right.
Like,
You made the bump matter.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so one of my friends referred it to as the King Hippo, and if you've played Punch Out on
Punch
Nintendo,
out. Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
you know that reference. But
I
yeah,
do.
it was just the one bump, and then he was out. Like that was it. Like that's all he took. And it was a fun match to do and put together. But yeah, I got the John Cena chance.
I remember the John Cena chant. I was popping for that. I called Red Dog John Cena. I had never saw it, and then once they said it was like a glass share, like, oh my God, Red Dog is John Cena.
Well, and I was out there with like the camo shoes and like the camo wrestling shoes, and then like the shorts, the camo shorts,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
people were
the
just
shorts.
popping for 'em. Like, yeah, and I was like, all right, bro, next time, next. And then you know what's funny is I got taught a lesson with that, right? Like, hey, if the crowd's gonna acknowledge you as John Cena, like, yo, 100% hit hit the sequence. You know
Hit
the
the
6
yeah,
moves to
yeah, yeah, yeah.
doom.
Do the
Hit the
from
sequence.
the yeah,
Yeah,
excuse
go
me.
through
Yeah, yeah,
it. Do it.
yeah.
The crowd is like, yo, the crowd is into it. And you're kind of it's one of those things too that I was learning was that you're kind of rewarding the crowd. When the crowd like chants something at you, like reward them. Like, yeah, you're gonna do it. Like
Right.
Ricochet did
You
it too
reciprocate it.
recently.
It's like you're listening to them. Like, I hear you. I'm gonna
Yeah.
do it. I
Because
got you.
remember, like Ricochet and Claudio like worked a match for the Continental Classic last Wednesday. There's another date stamp, timestamp for you guys. Um, and the crowd was going off. Bald forever.
Oh, I saw that clip. I saw
Yeah, and
that
then
clip.
Ricochet right before he jumped out, he like rubbed his head and the crowd popped for it. Like, yo,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
well,
yeah.
if that's gonna work, that's
Bald
gonna
forever.
work.
I did see that.
Bro, it was crazy. Ball forever, and it was like, "You're too shy." Like they were just all sorts of crazy stuff being shouted at these two. But it's again, it goes back to like you just rewarding the crowd and just like having fun with them. So I think it's very important to like obviously give back to like the crowd and give them the energy. Like it goes back to what we were saying, right? Like give back the energy that you're getting, and you know they're gonna reward you for it. And I try to figure that out the best that I can, the way I can.
Yeah, and I'm still learning on my own on how to connect with every crowd because some crowds are different. Some crowds, like I've wrestled in Jersey and I've wrestled in Virginia. Sometimes they like to see different things. Sometimes, Jersey might like a little bit more comedy or funny, like oh haha. But these people in Virginia, a lot of times they just want to boo the heel. They just want to see the heel get beat up. They
Yeah,
want to see the heel look stupid or whatever. So it's work in different areas. You start to see, okay, this works here, but this works over there,
yep,
and you really got to pay attention to your crowd. And that's a big thing with listening to the crowd. If you got to give back what they're asking for. So, you watch the first match on the card and you see what they are reacting to. What are they like? Okay, well, we should probably do this in our match, and every crowd is different. So you got to go out, and travel and wrestle in front of different crowds so you can see what crowd likes what and you can get good at it all. So you never in an uncomfortable spot when you go out there and like, oh, they like this. Well, I can do that just as
yeah.
much as I can do anything else out there.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do. Like I've wrestled in front of bar crowds and I've wrestled in front of like wrestling crowds and I've wrestled in front of like carnival crowds and wrestled in an arcade. That was a thing I did. I didn't even know that was so
Huh. They still
yeah.
had arcades.
Yeah. Yeah, this is very wild. Shout outs to Taunton, Massachusetts for that. But yeah, no, like yeah, the more you wrestle, the more you get out in front of different crowds, the more you start to understand like, all right, cool. Like, 1CW is and I'll use them as an example, is very much a character slash wrestling crowd. They love big moves, but they really love big characters, right?
Personalities and
Yeah. Like
either
pure
like they're
ignorance.
wacky, a super wacky personality or like a over the top or super gimmicky. Yeah. Yeah. They do
Yeah.
love
Well,
big
pure
personalities.
ignorance. Yeah, pure ignorance is a prime example of like a crowd that 1CW loves, right? Because like those guys go out and whether they're heels or their faces, man, they're just gonna talk shit to
Yep.
you regardless of what happened.
You believe them. When they come
Yeah.
out, you believe they are who they say they are.
Yeah,
I think that's a
100%.
big part of it.
I remember there was some random lady when we were there well, not last time. It was like the first time. It was when they won the tag titles. And they took them from Art of War. I remember this lady was just going off and people were trying to figure out like why I was running with them, right? And I was like, listen, like I just want to hang out with my boys. Like I shoot wise, didn't want to hang out in the back. I wanted to go hang out with boys. So I asked for permission if I could go with them. And they said yes, so we made it even worse. But yeah, some lady like I forget her name. I'm sorry when I tell this story, but she was yelling at Chaz. and she was like, "Hey," and I happened to look at her, and she was like, "Your boy's looking a little frail," and I was like, "You can't even spell frail," and she's like, "What?" And I was like, "Go ahead, spell that word for me," and she's like, F-R, and I just walked away. And she got so mad. She got so mad at me. And I was like, whatever. And then I just kept going on, like kept talking trash. And when they won, oh my God, like she was heated, full mama bear type like energy, like, oh, you guys are the worst, you guys cheated, blah 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 blah. There's a whole bunch more. I'm gonna tell you post this interview that happened with that scenario that, oh my God. But like to bring it back, like this lady was like ready to fight. And then like intermission happens and she comes back and we're just like, hey, what's up? And she was just like,
And they were really over as heels, but then when they went and turned babyface, they were super over as baby faces too.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Worked
that's
both
the good
ways
thing
there.
about a heel. Well, that's the best part about like wrestling, right? Like it's a thin line between love and hate, you know? I mean, so like when you think about it, like I tell everybody, listen, okay, and for all those who don't care about football, that's fine. I'm just gonna say this. I respect Tom Brady. Okay. I respect Tom Brady. I loathe that man. This man wins at everything, man. This man 7 rings, right? This man is in the Patriots Hall of Fame, and I don't even like the Patriots like that, but he's there. He's got his own wing there, right? This man retires from football, wins. I'm gonna say what I said, wins $325 million over 10 years with Fox. This man got a divorce from his wife and won money in the divorce.
Right. He's a winner.
And this dude wins at life. And I'm like, I can't stand you, bruh, because you win, but I respect it. Yo.
Because I mean, in a way, he earned it. You know, he grinded for it.
You're like, yeah, I mean, I hate the man, but you know, there's a thin line. There's a thin line between love and
There's a
hate. And
thin
I'm like,
line.
I was like, if Tom ever came to me, be like, hey, Cliff, like, I really appreciate your opinion and what you thought about me. I'd be like, oh, I fucking hate you, man. But I love that you acknowledge what I said. I hope I'm gonna clip that. I hope that he sees this one day. I'm just gonna tag him in it. Yo, let me get to talking, right? What's one of the worst bumps you've ever taken?
Oh, worst bump I ever took was in my first match. I wrestled Marshall E. Williams. He was solo at the time, and now he's Marshall E. Williams, the Human Terminator, and it was the finish. Thank God it was the finish. It was like a power bomb. God, I can't even remember. It was some kind of variation of a power bomb, and it was my very first match. I had been training for maybe 3 months, and it was a big, strong guy, and he slammed me down with some authority, but I didn't tuck my chin. Whack! I was out. I couldn't have kicked out if I wanted to. It was a good thing that was a finish. And I was like, I couldn't even remember the match. My first match, I forgot it. Completely forgot my first match. I went in the back and I asked Mark like 5 times, was it good? Was it good? Was it good? He's like, damn, how many times are you gonna ask me? Yes, it was fine. You asked me one more time, I'm gonna tell you it was the shits. Yeah, that first match. I haven't had a bump that bad since, but
Damn,
tuck the chin. It only took one time for me to learn tuck the chin. It took one time for me to figure that out.
yeah, no, I can understand, especially like when you're just out and you're trying to remember what was said. Like I'll share this with you. I got concussed at a promotion. I debuted at this place called Kaiju Pro. Love you, Kaiju, and Ashley. This is no shot at you. You already know this. But yeah, I did a drop kick off the second rope, and I didn't I tucked my chin, but I hit it on the back of my head, hit one of the other wrestlers' hips, and like knocked me out. It like knocked me out. And the only reason why, like, it's so weird because when you watch me, you instantly know something's wrong, right? But like I'm moving still, so like I'm still going through the match, and like
Right.
the crowd starts clapping. This is where I know like I'm coming back. The crowd starts clapping, right? Getting into it. And I'm like, all right, this is my comeback spot. I got it. And so I walk up to my friend, I put my hand on his shoulder. I was trying to tell him, like, yo, I'm kind of loopy. I need you to like, I wanted it to be like, yo, I'm kind of loopy, help me out, right? But as soon as I put my hand on his shoulder, he bumped. And I was
Magical
like,
bump.
oh, but it was like the light, like I mean, it was like this, like he bumped, so I picked him up, and he's like, "Yo, do something." I was like, "Bro, I'm loopy. I don't know what's happening right
I
now.
need
Please
you to
stop
do
me."
something.
So he goes, "Give me 3 shots, go to pick me up. I'm gonna throw you into the buckle. Just stay in the buckle." And so that's what I did. You just see me in the match, just throw like 3 shots, pick him up like I'm gonna power slam him. He slides behind me and just like shoves me into a turnbuckle, and then like that's where I'm supposed to stay. And that was the end of the match anyway for me on my part. So that's what happened. And I drove home. I drove home. I jumped on the podcast. I did a Sunday podcast. I don't even remember what we talked about. Like I just remember driving home.
Jeez.
And so I went back and watched the podcast and I was like, oh my God, bro, I'm glazed over.
They probably thought you were high in the podcast.
But there was the beauty of it, and I thank Chaz for this. But Chaz, after the podcast, like we ended the episode, Chaz ended it, and Chaz just stayed on. Like it was a 2-hour drive, bro, and I'm driving back. He just stayed with me on the podcast until I got home. But I was like, bro, I was so loopy. And then people were like 3 days later, they were like, "Hey, you're still loopy." I'm like, "No, actually, I'm quite normal. I just drink a lot of caffeine now." But it was it was crazy. I was like, "Oh my God, bro." I was bad. I was like, "Yeah, we can't do this again." Like, so I was like, no more missile drop kicks off the second rope if there's a third person in the ring. Yeah, I feel where you're coming from. Hey, last question I'm gonna ask you before we jump into my favorite part of the 3 Count podcast. What's one of the hardest lessons you've had to learn being in the business?
Hardest lesson I had to learn. That's a great question. I think the hardest lesson I had to learn is that it's not always going to be fun. Because when you see it on TV, you grow up watching it as a kid, you're like, man, I want to do that. Like, I want to be a pro wrestler, right? Everybody wants to be a pro wrestler. And then you do it. And when you first start doing it, it's a lot of fun. You're excited all the time. And you get that big win in front of the crowd for the first time, and they're cheering you on. It's like, man, this is great. It's great. It's great. And at some point, you hit a wall, and there's something's not going your way, or you had a bad match, or you went to a show and it didn't go the way you wanted it to, and you're like, man, this sucks. I drove 2 hours and had a crap match, and now I'm driving 2 hours back. I have a family at home that I took time away from to do this. But I'm looking at the long term, the big picture, what I want to get from wrestling in the end. It's going to take a lot of sacrifice, a lot of hard work, dedication, and consistency over everything. And it's not always going to be fun. It's not always going to be fun. And you got to get through those moments when it's not fun, because those moments make you a better wrestler, make you a better person. And the first time I had a wrestling show or match, whatever, and it wasn't fun, you stop and you think, man, this sucks. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. But you gotta. Everyone that's been in the business, been a wrestler, I'm sure has gone through that at some point. Like, man, this sucks. I'm never gonna do this again. Why do I do this? Da 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 da. And then we always come back. We're always back again for another match.
Glutton for punishment. No, I mean, I feel where you're coming from. It's one of those things like it's crazy to think though, man. It's just like so this business is a lot of fun, like 100%. Like I'm
definitely.
And there's definitely like moments where you're just like, damn, bro, like I work so hard, like I'm doing this, I'm doing that. You're asking me to do things, I'm doing the things you're asking me to do. You're supposed to be putting me in positions that are gonna help me succeed, but you're not. And then you get down on yourself, and you're like, I don't know why that person is getting pushed over me. You're questioning, like you're like, yo, like why am I doing this? And then you have to really, and this is where like I become part of it, right? I become to this part where I'm like, bro, I do this because I've been wanting to do this since I was a kid. Like, why do I care about what this person thinks of me or what that person thinks of me? Like, they're not, some of them may have done it, right? Some of them may have been involved in the business. Some of them may have taken bumps. Some of them haven't, right? And I'm like, why am I listening to this person right here when the furthest they, not saying that they're wrong, right? Like, I take all advice, but it's like, you see what I'm doing, and like I've had promoters tell me that like I'm not serious. I'm like, well, first of all, like I drive 7 hours for a 15-minute match. So if that doesn't tell you that I'm not serious, I don't know what
Right,
will.
you're committed. You're
Yeah,
committed to it.
like I'm here. Um, but I've also had promoters like tell me like, hey man, like we really appreciate the work that you're gonna do. We have a match for you. Just show up and we're here for it. And I'm like, all right, cool. And then there's nothing. So I'm just like, all right, whatever. I'm here for fun. So I'm just gonna go enjoy what I'm doing anyway and just ball
Right.
out,
And there'll be
and
people there, that you like,
yeah,
the
and I
people
mean
you meet in the business is a big plus, I think. So many
100%.
great people I've met. I could list 100 people I've met in the business that I think the world of, and I never would have met if I never did wrestling.
Yeah.
That's a big part
And
of
that's
it.
what you gotta remember too. Is like you gotta remember like the reason why you got into it is because you wanted to be like, like Shawn Michaels, you wanted to be Bret Hart, you wanted to be Bob Backlund, you wanted to be Mr.
Backlund,
Perfect.
that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
Tommy Drop, man.
Yeah, you want to be those guys. Like you always
Yeah.
always wanted to be those guys. And so to me, like sometimes like I got to a point where it was like a couple years ago where I was in your position, man. I was like, yo, man, like you told me I was gonna do this, this, and this, and then you're taking this away. I don't gotta be a part about this. Whatever. And then I booked it. I just like, cool, I'm gonna help do what I gotta do, and I'm just gonna leave. And then I did. And I just left. And then some of those promotions have reached out and brought me back on, and I worked at those shows, and the crowd still popped right when I showed up, and it was
Right.
cool. But ultimately, man, if you don't feel like you're appreciated somewhere, bro, like don't worry about it. Think about all the wrestling there is. Like you literally popped up into Massachusetts the week of the Colts Patriots game,
I know. And there was a
and
show.
the
I
day
kind of went to
before
that.
was a show. Yeah, and you could have popped in and hung out with me, and I would have been like, yeah, here's everybody you want to talk to. Here's this person, here's that person. Like you could talk to Matt Tremont, who can help you get booked over at H2O. Like, yeah, I was like, there's all sorts of stuff that we could have. But again, right? Like, if you're not happy somewhere, bro, you gotta go back, just bounce. Like, hey man, I appreciate the business. I hope that we can stay cordial and we'll just talk about it later. And I'm out and just go about your business. And it's cool. Like, no harm, no foul. And there's something I learned too with another promotion was that, sometimes you're just not what they're looking for. And that's okay. And it's
That's
like
okay.
it's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
personal.
I've been there before
Yeah.
too.
There's no doubt. Hey, but we're gonna hop this over to my favorite part of the podcast, which is the 3-count podcast, 10-count questions. This is how it works, Mr. BT. I'm gonna fire off 10 questions at you rapid fast, and whatever your answer is, that is your answer.
All right.
So I'm gonna put on Imagine timer for add pressure. Bing! And in the words of my favorite commentator, Mike Goldberg, here we go. SmackDown or Raw?
SmackDown.
Favorite movie?
The Dark Knight.
Let's go. Apple or Android?
Apple.
Favorite cartoon?
One Piece.
Let's go. That's a lot of episodes to watch. Marvel or DC?
DC.
Favorite TV show?
Penguin.
That's a good one. Especially now that you said DC. That's a good one to pick. Waffles or pancakes?
Waffles.
Favorite podcast?
Jim Cornette Experience.
It's a good one. Fun fact: Chaz got blocked by Jim Cornette.
Everybody gets blocked. I could get blocked by Jim if I wanted to. He blocks everybody.
He does. Nominate one person that you want to see on this podcast.
Ooh. Party McFly.
I like it. And then last but not least, my favorite question to ask every single person who comes on this podcast: favorite curse word?
I can say it.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's no other word that you can't use. Like, yeah, that's the word, bro.
I
Like,
say it too much.
I think on this podcast, like, I'll probably say close to 80%. The word "fuck" has been that word.
It's funny because I got a daughter now, and we're trying not to cuss. So instead of that word, we say frickle frackle.
Yo, and then you catch her saying
So
it.
I'm starting to get used to saying frickle frackle, but I still slip up every now and then.
And then when she
It's
starts
hard.
saying, you're gonna be like, "Oh no!" Like it's context.
Yeah.
It's context, man. Like, yeah, I just know, like, for me, yeah, a lot of people would be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, like I don't mean to swear in front of your daughter." I was like, "Listen, like her dad is former military. her mom is from the Northeast, like, hey, there ain't no word that she ain't gonna hear that we already said numerous times. So there's like, I mean, I guess if you don't treat it like as a curse word and you just kind of like don't pay attention to it, like they're also not gonna pay attention to it. You know, they might use
Yeah.
it in proper context, and as long as you're just kind of like, hey, don't use that word, because
Yeah,
once you
not
do
here. Don't
that,
say it here.
yeah, once you do that, oh, don't say that. Like then it becomes a game to them, and they're like, oh God, I don't want to do that. But yo, those are all the questions I have for you. So the last thing I need is for you to let our listeners and our viewers know where they can find you.
All right, I'm on Facebook, BT Windsor. I'm on YouTube, BT Windsor. I'm on Instagram, BT_Windsor. I mean, it's simple. I'm on Twitter, BT_Windsor. It's all the same, nice and easy. Give me a follow, subscribe to the YouTube page. Trying to post more on there. I'm getting around to it. I got to get some match footage, but yeah. Next year, right now, I've got 1CW and MATW locked up for sure. I'll be working at both those places a lot, and I'm trying to reach out and get to some more places. I got some stuff I'm working on, but nothing confirmed yet. But 1CW, MATW, those are my two big promotions I work for most of the time.
Nice. Well, he told you where you can find him. He even gave you some of the dates that he's got planned up for next year. So if you're paying attention to the 1CW page or the MATW page, you'll see those dates, and you might see BT right there in. So like every great part of a wrestling match, we got to take this home, because this is the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Into Ring, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And like always, it's never about me. It's about who's into the ring. So who's into the ring? You see that man right there, BT Windsor. And you know what that means. Tune in to the next episode and be there, or you're legitimately subscribed to our YouTube channel. You're listening to us on Spotify. You're even checking us out on Amazon Music. You're even paying attention to on that dumb app with the stupid jingle that goes iHeartRadio. You're following us on all of our social media platforms, whether it's at 3 Count Pod right there, or it's at 3count_pod on X. That's the only one that's different. You're even checking out our merch on foryouwear.com, or you're even just buying our merch on prowrestlingtees.com. You're telling your mom about us, your dad about us, your aunties, your uncles, your brothers, your sisters, your best friends, your cousins, and your enemies, because we love haters too. You're doing that stuff, or you're really just kind of waiting for this episode to end, waiting for the outro, and then choosing another episode to listen to. Kawaii.
That was impressive. How many times have you done that to get good at that? How long?
What's up? It is your friendly neighborhood Red Dog, and thank you for checking out this episode of the 3 Count Podcast. Whether that was Chaz Friends, Red Dog Friends, Damien Friends, The Films Lounge, Now Into the Ring, Now Entering 201, or Now Returning to the Ring, all those good episodes, you should really be liking, commenting, and even sharing this with your friends, family, whoever it may be. But what you all should be doing is checking us out on all of our social media platforms at 3 Count Pod, whether that's on IG, Twitch, you can check us out on Threads, whatever it may be. And if you go check us out on X, it is 3count_pod. Check us out on YouTube, as well as Facebook, on Rumble, on Apple Music, on Spotify, all those fun things. Tell your mom about us, your dad about us, your aunties, your uncles, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, and your best friends and your enemies, because we love haters too. Do all that stuff, and then, last but not least, buy our merch on foryouwear.com or prowrestlingtees.com. Kawaii.